Welcome to another episode of Unpacking the Brand. My name is Randy Kessler. I'm the Digital Advertising Director at Informa Markets, joined, as always, by the man, the myth, the legend, Ken Theriot, CEO of the Riot Agency. What's up, Ken?
Not much, just living the dream. Happy to be here. Excited to record another educational and entertaining podcast for our audience.
We're just trying to give the people what they want, right, Ken? Come on. I mean, this is all we can do.
I couldn't agree more. I was excited about the engagement that we had with our previous kind of short form videos, and I think that what we're seeing across the entire marketing and customer prospect engagement space is a desire for longer form content, because answers are easy to come by now. You have AI and Google and a lot of tools, and I think people are more interested in the thought process. And plus, we get to banter and have a good time. So, no complaints here.
None, other than the fact I'm freezing my you-know-what off. That's neither here nor there. Okay, so for this week's episode, we're going to be joined by Katie Graham. She is the Regional Marketing Communications Manager at Bobst North America, someone we've known pretty much since the time we got into this industry. She's been with FTA, with Pamarco, huge presence on LinkedIn. We're very excited to have her on. So let's go ahead and bring Katie in.
Awesome.
In a world where brands compete for attention, where innovation meets strategy, and where storytelling drives success, join Ken Theriot and Randy Kessler as they dive into the world of branding, business, and beyond.
Joining us today is Katie Graham. She's the Regional Marketing Communications Manager at Bobst North America. Previous stops at FTA and Pamarco. Basically joined the industry about the same time as Ken and myself, I think. We're very happy to have her as a guest today. Katie, what's going on?
Not much. It's great to be here. Happy to join your podcast today and to talk a little bit about marketing and branding for the industrial space.
Absolutely. Very excited about it. And we can kind of get right into it. Manufacturing is a different ballgame when it comes to marketing and branding. And maybe you could talk about some of the unique challenges manufacturers face in building a brand compared to other industries, like tech or, anything else really. Manufacturing is different, isn't it?
It is. It's very different. When you're thinking about B2C, obviously there's some emotional appeal, lifestyle marketing that drives the engagement more. When you start getting into manufacturing, you have a lot more to prove with long-term value, reliability, technical expertise. You can't just, it's just different than other types of industries. And customers are making major investments. This is not, a purchase of a bag of Lay's potato chips or some software, that you can delete from your computer when you're done. This is a huge investment. So typically there's a lot more challenges that come with that. The sales cycles are longer. Decisions involve multiple stakeholders. There's just a lot more to it than some of the more simple platforms.
Ken, you got something to say there? Looked like you wanted
I agree with her 100%. I think, there's just a lot more decision points that need to be made. I think humans are still emotional creatures, so they make emotional decisions, but it's important for them to be able to rationalize those, with their colleagues. And I think making large investments take a methodical approach to making sure you're making the correct one. So I definitely echo her sentiments.
And just to go a little bit deeper, I think one of the things that we like to think about a lot is what's keeping our customers up at night. And sometimes that's not as common of a thought process because we're in solutions, we're trying to sell solutions. So I think from that side, that's another element that is really important when it comes to marketing and branding in the manufacturing space.
Now, you don't have to share industry secrets here, but what are some things that you've done at Bobst that you're comfortable sharing with our listeners in terms of, successful implementations or maybe macro level things that you've done that have worked?
So from that side, I think there are quite a few things that just in my time here that we have seen success with. Obviously, customer engagement is really important. We want to be sure that everything that we're talking about and that we're trying to share is relevant. You can get lost in your own selling to yourself type of mentality, which doesn't really work. So I think from that side, it's a really big piece of our plan and our strategy is customer centricity, and also focusing on ways that we can add value versus just selling a machine. It doesn't saying, here, look at what this machine can do. Well, why does that matter? So I think from our side, that's a big part of our strategy, and listening to our customers, listening to trends, listening to the market, engaging with our customers, I think is really important from the beginning of the process. When you start to, decide, is there a need for a new strategy? Do we need to take a fresh look at things? Just really listening to your customers and dialing in on what are their pain points and how can we address that?
Mhm.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think there's a saying that we use at TRA a lot, that the customers don't care about your products or services; they care about their problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really kind of in line with the customer-centric approach. Like you're trying to solve their problems, and the more that you kind of synthesize that into your strategy, into your communication, and overall customer engagement, the more successful you can be. So keeping the customer at the center is it's everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So Bobst is headquartered in Italy?
Switzerland.
Switzerland. Okay. So does that present different challenges from a global or regional perspective? Like, are you just worried about North America or the United States, or do you have to kind of liaise with Europe and it's one plan everywhere? Or how do maybe give us a little insight into how is it a regionalized approach? Is it an overall approach? Or
Yes.
Just talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So, I mean, the answer is yes. So obviously we have, from a corporate standpoint, we have to have some type of strategy. When you're a global company, you can't have only regional strategies. Otherwise, you'll never move forward as a group. So from the group standpoint, yes, we have strategies. We have a lot of freedom to regionalize those and to tailor the messaging and the overall vision of the company for our region. So maybe that's in how we share it, how we engage, because how you engage in North America is going to be very different than how you would engage in Mexico or Italy or somewhere else. So I think from that side, you have to have both, and they have to be cohesive. And I think it takes a lot of collaboration, cooperation, and just understanding, where we are in different regions. And ultimately, communication is the main thing, because if we're doing something different over here and we don't know about it, then that can create a lot of issues and a lot of conflicting messaging. And that's something you definitely want to avoid. But I think there's a big difference in having conflicting messages and in having kind of this ecosystem of where we're all working together to build a brand in a similar way, just geared toward the culture that's in the different countries, for sure.
I mean, I have a question in terms of technology, right? So and maybe you can elaborate on when did you join Bobst? What year was it?
2021.
Okay, so that's like during COVID,
Oh yeah.
right? So I mean, I feel like there's been a shift. I mean, specifically in the print and packaging space of their the packaging space has kind of been, I don't want to say stagnant, but I'll be honest, it's been stagnant since the beginning till probably pre-COVID. I mean, what role is technology playing in kind of your driving engagement and your relationship with customers? Are you guys leveraging a CRM? Are you leveraging any kind of marketing technology to drive that engagement, or do you see that in your future?
Sure. No, I think for us, one of our key pillars is digitalization. That's a tough word to get out correctly the first try. So I think you can't ignore it. You have to get on board, and you have to really look at your business overall and how all of the different technologies that are coming out, whether it's related to customer service, whether it's marketing, there's so many different ways you can use AI. There's so many different opportunities out there, even for working directly with our customers as far as the technology that we offer on our equipment, predictive maintenance, e-commerce. There's so many different things. So to try to, nail it down to just one area, I think would be difficult. From my side, I see customer service being a huge part that kind of gets overlooked sometimes. We get busy talking about, like I was just saying, predictive maintenance and all of these different things that we offer on equipment or from marketing side. How are we keeping up with our customers, like you were saying, with CRMs? And you've got Salesforce and Pardot, and I mean, I get a new email from someone offering a digital marketing solution almost daily. So there's no shortage of those.
No, you're not.
It's okay. He's not. He's not at all. I'll get another one after this call. He'll be like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you about."
Yeah. My bad.
No, I think there's just so many different layers to that. So, from my side, the customer service piece is such a huge thing, because we could talk about CRM and how, we need to track leads and revenue and all that, but it also benefits our customers. And again, if you go back to really actually living out the customer centricity, then all of these different things have to matter to them, and it has to make a difference to how they interact with us and how we interact with them. So I think there's just a bigger picture there than just, saying, okay, we're using these digital platforms to get our message out and all that. There's just so much to that.
Right. Nope, I totally agree. I mean, so how do you guys prioritize that internally? Like, how do you know, when is a good decision to move forward on a project or not? Is that, like, do you have any kind of process, or, is
That's a tough one. I mean,
ask?
it is. It's that's a challenging question, but honestly, I think, we have to step back, and this is where the corporate vision comes into play. How is this going to get us there? How are we going to get to where we're trying to go? Is this going to help us be more customer centric? Is this going to address some of our the focuses that we have with our 4 key pillars? Is this going to, benefit our customers? There's a lot of different questions that I think we would ask to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, I absolutely love hearing that. Like, a part of our process is helping brands identify what we call their PODs, or their points of differentiation or distinction. And often we use those as kind of the litmus test on, should we take on this initiative or not? Like, if this, you mentioned your pillars, like, that's how you keep alignment, and you make all the small decisions kind of affect the larger goals. So I think that's great. There's a lot out there. It's a question that we get a lot, though. That's why I'm curious, because to your point, we're inundated with so much new things, and you can't be afraid of all the things, but you have to know how to create some filters and make some decisions on, when should we move on this, and when should we not? And I think we have a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah, and I think some of it, again, going back to the communication and regional aspects of that. Sometimes what works in one region doesn't work in another. You really just have to be flexible and fluid and be able to pivot quickly if necessary. And like you said, you can't be afraid. Oh, we don't want to try this. We don't want to do, we don't want to take a chance. It's too risky. You don't know until you actually give it a try after you've done your due diligence, obviously. But I think that's a key point as well.
And maybe just a follow-up question to that, what role does analytics play in your marketing?
I mean, you can't not have that as a huge part. You have to be able to determine KPIs and was this worth it? And so from our side, obviously we have we have the communications team in Switzerland that works through tons of analytics, and we have reports that we get every month, and we have to, from a regional level, we have to go and look at that. From a group level, we have to go and look at that. So I think it's a critical piece of the puzzle, and it's nice to have a team that is there for us and that is supporting us with that. So our communication team is great.
Awesome.
So let's do story time, Katie. I think I have a children's book now. There, in the form of a case study, you had mentioned previously that there was a case study you could share some details about on building an existing brand in a new market. So I'll give you the floor on just going wherever you want with that question.
Yeah. So for us, historically, Bobst was really dedicated and committed to folding carton and corrugated. That was how we started in the industry. So we've typically been known for that, especially I feel like in the US. Initially, that was the focus of of where we went into the market. And then in the last several years, we've really tried to get more into flexible packaging and labels. And so I think kind of creating a space for ourselves there and shifting how customers perceived us, not that they didn't just look at us as folding carton and corrugated and, oh, they have great folder gluers and great die cutters, but no, we have a lot more than that. And so I think, our competence center that we have in Atlanta now is really a testament to the commitment level that we have to those two markets, and how we took a step in that direction and kind of, adding two totally new markets to our lineup was a huge step, because, you have to think about what all that includes: manufacturing facilities, all of these different things. So I think through customer education, sharing success stories from, new customers, and just really building our brand as far as those two industries go has been quite interesting. And one of the things that I've noticed the most, as far as when you talk about a success story, it wasn't just about us going and telling everyone, hey, we have this, we have these new machines. It was a more than that. And we had to work with associations. We had to work with media partners. You have to really dive in and commit yourself as an investment in the industry that you're trying to get into, and not just, hey, we have these machines. You have to be involved in the industry. And I think our team has done a really great job of that, especially with our sales team and our marketing and communications team in North America. I think we've done a really good job of getting into the industry itself and not just presenting something to the industry, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, there's a question, follow-up question here is, you just mentioned sales and marketing. How closely does the sales team work with the marketing team?
I actually had that as a point on a previous thing, but I had been talking too long, so I dropped it. Great, thanks for bringing that up. So it's amazing how well we work together. We just had our sales kickoff meeting last week, and I mean, you could not ask for a more cohesive unit as far as our teams go, and not just with marketing, but when you have the 4 markets with corrugated, folded carton, flexible packaging, label, you really have to have that unit there, because there's so much overlap, right? Like this folding carton customer might have a need for a digital press, so we need to involve that team. So there's all of this overlap and cross-selling that can happen, and I think our teams do a great job of working together and having everyone under one roof last week. It was just even more confirmation that we have the right team in place. And then, of course, with the marketing team as well, we just really have a good unity going on right now. So I think you'll see a lot of cool things from our team.
And so from kind of first getting in the industry to now, like, have you seen that relationship get stronger? I think when I first started, it felt like, marketing worked for sales, and,
For sure.
and now, I often, I'd like to think that sales works for marketing, but that's not everyone always agrees with that. But we're definitely, I mean,
Jump off the call.
but we're at least trying. Like, I feel like there's a real energy behind working together. Like, everybody sees the value, and everyone's in it. Have you seen that shift as well?
Yes, and I do think that the some of that comes from seeing the value that marketing brings. And one of my favorite quotes is, marketing creates the environment for sales to be made. And I think that is just, it's starting to be more clear to sales and to different, even just beyond sales, even manufacturing type roles. I think it's just starting to be more clear as marketing has continued to create the value and to create the environment that is needed to really change your brand. From our perspective, changing our perception in the market to, making those adjustments I was talking about with flexible packaging and label, you can really show why marketing matters. And I think that has gone a long way from my experience to shift some of that and to be seen as part of the team, and not like, okay, this is the marketing person, these are the salespeople. It's more like we're a team and we're going to work together. And also really getting down into those KPIs, like I was saying before, when you're showing the MQLs and SQLs, and you're not just, expecting all the leads to be generated by sales, but you're showing how the marketing team are driving leads also. And you put those two together, then you're able to say, okay, this was contributed by marketing, this was contributed by sales, and now we've reached the quota that we were after. That's when you really start to show some quantifiable, real life results, and that's just adds to the team effort, I think.
100%. I think it might have been 5 or 6 years ago that HubSpot had come out with a study that basically said that prospects want to do about 80% of the purchasing on their own, right? So and it's important for brands to communicate, what's the experience going to be like, can they expect, and by the time they actually talk to a salesperson, they want to reconfirm their beliefs. So, sales it's very relationship based, but it's more about making sure that they make the right decision and not just selling them a product, especially in this market where you're looking to build a long-term relationship. And, I've heard many capital equipment manufacturers talk about, like, I'm not really concerned about the first sale. I want the second, third, fourth, fifth sale, right? Once that relationship is established, that's where you really start getting ROI. So I think there's a lot of value in everybody working together.
Agree.
I had a quick follow-up sort of related to that. So when you made the decision to shift not away from, but to add on labels and flex pack, did you have existing customers, let's say in folding carton corrugated, that followed the Bobst brand over to labels just because a function of who you are as Bobst? Did they, not looking for customer names, but did that happen, or is that potentially could happen?
It does, and it continues to happen, especially with our digital line, because that is typically a complementary thing with folding carton. So it's definitely happened, and it continues to happen. And as you see some of the acquisitions and some of that change, and companies continue to merge, you're going to see more of that happening, because they're going to be adding different types of applications to their lineup. So then they're going to need different types of equipment, and they already have an existing Bobst machine. So then, of course, they're going to say, okay, well, why don't we just go to our current suppliers and see what we have? And then, of course, we're constantly knocking on the door saying, hey, this is a solution that we already offer, end to end. So I think from that side, it'll just continue to happen. Yes.
And so how important is the role of, like, the voice of the customer and you guys making those decisions to get into those markets? Is that, did you do that from a strategic standpoint, from kind of like an ongoing request, or is there, you guys just saw kind of new green fields to go after? How do you guys confidently go after that?
So I think that from our side, obviously we're very proud of the legacy that we have in corrugated and folded carton. We're seen as a premium supplier. So we wanted to be able to offer that to the other markets. And I think that that's a critical point there. But also, seeing the future of packaging, especially with from the digital side, that's going to be a huge part of packaging in the future. So just wanting to ensure that we are staying premium, because premium is not just about quality, it's also about understanding trends and making sure that we're staying up to date with the latest technology and all those things, because you can offer a premium machine, but if it's not the latest technology, then is that really going to benefit everyone? So wanting to stay at the the edge of technology, and that we're not getting behind, is really important to us.
So let's talk about personal branding and manufacturing. Katie, you're a LinkedIn legend within our space. So,
legend.
So maybe just, how have you built your personal brand?
Yeah. So for me, I think one of the biggest things is being engaged, and you can do that in a lot of ways. You can do that on LinkedIn. You can do that in person. You can do that at events. But ultimately, one of the things that I realized after a few years in the industry was, I was engaging, but there was really not a ton of value to the way that I was engaging. And so I started to try to look for ways to add value and also keep the human side of things, because I think that's really important. We can get lost in, conferences where we're talking about spot color and la, 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 and then you just lose some of the human element there. And so for me, that was really important as far as the visibility goes. But then when it comes to more like not digital interaction, but like in-person interaction, being involved in industry groups, being willing to share whatever knowledge, I've gotten over the years, and genuinely connecting with people, I think has been a huge benefit from a networking side. Of course, I can't go without saying Women of Flexo. That's a huge part of the networking. And, we actually have an event coming up in a couple of weeks. But being a remote employee, I think those types of engagements and networking are really important. And there's so many remote employees now,
Right.
making time and putting in the effort, being intentional about, going to those types of events and investing yourself in those types of opportunities is really important when it comes to building your own brand. Then you create this huge network and you have lots of contacts, and you're able to really make a difference, not just for yourself, but for the industry as a whole. And that to me is another key, is again, going back to investing and committing ourselves, not just from Bobst, but for myself, like just jumping in both feet with the industry and being willing to put in the work.
So if there, I think the industry as a whole has a desire to recruit new talent, right? We talk to a lot of customers and people within the industry. There's a need for new talent. So as someone's being successful, kind of driving that engagement, if there was 2 or 3 things that you recommend to someone just getting started, what would those things be? What's, the number 1, the number 2?
Okay. Number 1 would be, don't pass up opportunities to network. If you get an opportunity, or look for them where you can volunteer, where you can, be in person and engage, that's a huge one. And of course, you can't go past social media. You have to have the LinkedIn element there, and finding a way to engage on LinkedIn without just, posting status updates where you got a new job, or nothing wrong with that. But I think you have to have more, and you have to have a plan and a strategy. So, just stop and think about what do you want to say, and who do you want to talk to, and what are they interested in, and how can you get that across to them in a cohesive, well thought out way, and not just posting random updates. And then the last thing would be from your internal network at your company. How can you leverage that to build an external network? Because I think that's a piece that we overlook a lot of time. You don't know, do you know everyone at your company? How can you get more involved there? Because that typically tends to open up doors to get involved in other ways outside of your company. And it also helps just kind of build your reputation and build your brand.
So has that ever, I guess I'm speaking strictly from the personal brand perspective here, has that led to business for you?
For me, it has. I think, especially with certain events where, I've gotten the opportunity to speak, or because of the networking, my team have gotten an opportunity to speak. I'm thinking of specifically events where they were able to go and present at a conference. And that was the direct result of relationships that have been created by networking and volunteering that I had done. And so I would say yes. And in addition, another quantifiable KPI for that would be the visibility, especially in the flexible packaging and label space. This is why I think it's so important that we've invested and committed to that, because then not only are you adding to the bottom line as far as sales go, but just more abstract is the visibility and the perception that you're helping to shift, which overall can lead to more sales. So, yeah.
Ken, anything to add there?
No, I mean, I think, I agree.
He's speechless. I love it. Great.
Ken lives by the beach, so he can post beach photos on LinkedIn. So I can. It's -4 here, hence the hoodie, and yeah, I could jump out in the snow and take some photos, maybe. But yeah, that's no one wants to see that.
-4.
I mean, I think a lot of industries, but even more so in the packaging space, is when you're selling a piece of equipment or service, that company is outsourcing a need to you, and they want, the power of a brand, and the brand is built by all the individual touch points that the people have. They want safety and security. So if you're connected with your customers and your prospects, and they know the people and they can trust, that we call it the trust bridge. If you're over the trust bridge, it makes it a lot easier when they know who to call when they have a problem, and that you're a person, and they know things about you. I think it's incredibly important.
Yep, for sure.
So a couple more here for you, Katie. We normally try to keep it to around 30, 40 minutes, Ken, something like that. So before we get to the rapid fire, and
Well, maybe we'll work ourselves up to
Yeah,
Rogan
well,
status later.
baby steps, baby steps. So marketing, Ken referenced, when you joined Bobst and how things have changed, with COVID in the last 4 years. So where do you see it going in the next, let's say, 4 to 5 years? Because it's changing so much. Is AI going to be a big part of that? Or where do you see kind of the world of marketing going digitally in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah. So, I mean, like we were talking about before with all of the different platforms, and I mean, that's going to continue to evolve. And yes, AI, from my perspective, I tell anyone that I'm mentoring, because, there's a lot of mentorship groups in the industry, like anyone that you're mentoring, I'm just like, you have to get on board with AI. You have to learn all of these different tools. It's huge. And I mean, every platform that I use has some form of AI on it. Whether they can write for you, whether they can, create a timeline, whatever it is. I mean, slide decks, there's just no end, and it's just going to continue. So I think from that side, that's going to be a critical point to being effective. And you have to understand it. You can't just say, oh, I know about it. Do you understand how to use it? Do you understand how to analyze it? Do you understand how to ensure that you're using it properly? Because, you can really get yourself in trouble if you're not checking. And then like analytics wise, I think AI is going to just be the thing that we use for analytics, because there's certain things you actually can replace some humans with, and that just seems to be one of them, is from the analytics side. So I think it's just going to be really important to understand what the options are and how to use them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on the analytics side. I mean, we're at peak attention, right? There's almost like we only have so many hours in the day, so people can't give their attention to much more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've increased the amount of data points that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So we just need assistance and being able to, focus our attention on the things that are critically important. So yeah, I totally agree. I think AI is going to be huge in helping people create what we call actionable intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're still going to need to take action. You're still going to need to do
Exactly.
things, but it's going to help you kind of prioritize where you focus.
Yeah. And it's just so important to be able to use them, because then you're really being more efficient in your role. So I think that's going to be a critical point.
Yeah, I think I heard a quote. It was something along the lines of, AI won't replace sales and marketing people, but it will replace people that don't know how to use it
Exactly.
properly.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's like anything. It's like a pneumatic nail gun, right? Like before they used to use a hammer and a nail to put that in. Eventually, it's just a guy with a nail gun. It didn't replace the guy holding the nail gun. He still's got to use it, but it sped it up. So the people that know how to use it and are good are going to be faster.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then you need to retool and find a different job.
You're going to fall behind. There's no two ways about it. You will
100%.
fall behind.
Yeah.
You will. For sure.
So this is a podcast about branding. So we always do a quick rapid fire round towards the end. So just quick answers for you here, Katie.
Okay.
What is your favorite brand?
Apple.
And your least favorite brand?
Any brand that I'm not going to call out anyone, but any
She's too
brand
nice.
that
Feel free.
over promises and under delivers.
Mm.
And then what's the best business book you've read recently?
I'm sorry, what was the last one?
What's the best business book you've
I have
recently read?
So the best business book I've read, I don't know if it's actually classified as a business book, but Atomic Habits by James Clear is a really good,
Okay, yeah.
not a traditional business book, but I think it helped with rethinking productivity and leadership and things like that. So.
I sadly have that book, just haven't cracked it open
Is
yet.
it on your nightstand or in like somewhere where you have this big stack of books?
One is called All Joy and No Fun: The Paradox of Modern Parenthood. So that's a doozy. Just but we'll just
start with Atomic Habits. It sounds a little less invasive.
Yeah, I digress. So we'll give you a chance to kind of plug Bobst here. What's new at Bobst? What do you guys have going on coming up? You mentioned, the Women of Flex, so that's obviously separate, but I know you got the Competence Center. There's one opening in overseas, or It's just right. I saw a press
Um,
release about that recently.
Yeah, so we do have some competence centers in Europe that have just recently opened. And of course, we have the one in Atlanta. So we have two actually in North America. We have a competence center in Atlanta and we have a demo center in LA, just outside of LA. So we try to cover all of the different markets that we're in. So the West Coast Center is more of a folding carton corrugated. And then, of course, the Atlanta Competence Center is flexible packaging and labels. So we always have events going on there. You know, we have, depending on the time of the year, we have open houses, we have technology days. We do a lot of work with our partners. We have Miraclon is our premier partner. So there's just a lot of opportunity for us to engage with people at those centers, and also for learning, for training, research and development. There's just a lot of opportunities at both of those centers year round.
Awesome.
And I think that does it for today. I mean, I've got nothing else. We want to keep it fairly short and sweet. You've been an awesome guest, Katie. Appreciate having you on.
Yep, very much.
Sure. Glad to be here. And thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We'll bring you back as a future guest sometime. If this project takes off for us. Otherwise, we'll just scrap the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to see how that goes.
Right. Exactly.
It's going to be great. It's awesome.
I'll share it with my legendary status on LinkedIn.
You should. You absolutely should.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us on Unpacking the Brand. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, we'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about business, branding, and innovation.